Okay, we're going to talk about the coil sets that we're going to be using on the box motor. Now what I've done is design this in such a way that this coil set will work on either the large or the small version of the box motor. So what you have is this PDF TM 2012-2, and that's the SSG version for the coil type we're going to start with for the box motor. So you can download this online and print it, and you don't really have to print all of it, but you should print this last page, which is the template. And the template is to scale, so all these parts are the right size. So by cutting these out, you can use these to generate your first set of components. And what I've done here is I've already cut, there's three of these plates, and I've already cut them. All this is straight cuts. The whole coil design is built in a way that allow you to construct it without any complicated tools or complicated cuts. So I tried to square everything up and make it simple to build that way. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cut these shapes out, and we're going to use them as templates to drill the holes in these parts, and then we'll use the parts created from these paper templates, because they won't survive making 36 of these pieces. So we're going to just make a set of templates from the paper template, and that'll allow us to use that set to create all the other pieces. So we're going to get started by cutting this out. You want to cut right on the line. You know, honestly, it doesn't have to be polycarbonate. Whatever you can get your hands on, plastic, as long as it's not so brittle that it's going to break, it would work. The coil puts a momentary pulse, a push, that is not so intense that it could cause it to break. So with that in mind, you know, I use polycarbonate because I have a good supplier. Just keep that in mind. You could use plastic. It doesn't have to be transparent. It could be just plastic. You know, it could even be some kind of composite wood with a resin in it. You just want it thin enough that it's not going to affect your design. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and you can see I'm going to cut these parts out, and then we'll pick it up from there. Okay, now I've got these parts cut out. Now I'm going to cut this out with an X-Acto knife, and I'll show you how to do that. But these little parts here, you really don't need to cut them out. This is a spacer. It's just showing you what it is. So it doesn't have to be that exact size. It can be made out of surplus material. And then this little curved piece here, if you can find a circular piece of plastic, right? If not, you can take just a plain piece of polycarbonate sheet and cut a strip the thickness of the core, and then just grind a round shape. And that's what I do. I haven't really tried to find anything. It's so easy to create this piece out of just a scrap piece of the polycarbonate sheeting that I didn't feel it was necessary. So we got the parts cut out. Now we're going to cut this shape out of the middle, and if you stay on the line, you should cut to split the difference of the line. You should see little parts of the line all the way around to make sure that your shape is correct. And it's a little hard to do with this headgear on here. I'm trying to stay focused on the cut here. Fairly easy. Now when you transpose this to the actual polycarbonate, this is the front face, you're going to mark it and then cut it out and ensure that it fits. You know, test fit it before you start cutting your other templates, because if this hole's off, you're going to make a mess out of a lot of your parts. So I want to do that. So okay, so there we go. That's the template for the front, and all the holes where they have to be drilled. So if you want to ensure that you didn't mess anything up, what you would do is take these parts, and once you've made these templates, just put the thing together and ensure that all the parts are going to work and all the holes are lined up, because once you've tested it, you can take it back apart, ensure that you're going to be able to use it and it's not going to mess up. Because if you use the same templates for all of your coils, it'll work. You won't have a problem. But if you take them all and cut them all without ensuring that they're correct, you could have some serious issues. I did my best to make sure these holes are lined up, and they do line up. So, but you're also transposing that onto the material with a drill bit, so there's a chance you could get it misaligned and drill through it and not notice that it's off enough to allow you not to get these bolts in. Now, one other thing, you might check the website if you don't have access to this material. In the continental United States, I think I'm going to get my nephew or somebody to actually cut all these parts out, just squares, so pretty easy to cut. And I get this material surplus. I get it from remnants of jobs that have been run. So I was thinking if I took this, I could make a coil set, which would include these parts, top and bottom, 3 of these pieces, and then I've got these surplus too, and I've got a really good supply of these, and I'm buying them by the pound. Now if you went out and bought them, you know, they could be a little expensive. I'm going to put a kit together. I'll have to figure out how much, but if you check the website, it'll probably be in the closed form first, because I'm not sure how many of these kits I can put together, and I'm trying to get replicators to replicate the box motor. So they're going to be first. So if you're not in the free form, just check the open form, and maybe we can find somebody else to manufacture these parts and put a small set together for a coil, and maybe even the parts for the complete set of plastic parts for an entire box motor, because it wouldn't matter the size of the box motor. The parts are universal. You're only scaling up by the sides and the dimension of the wheel is scalable. So okay, I'm going to go through this here real quick. Well, instead of using the template that I created for the front cover, I'm just drilling these 4 holes and marking this and not cutting those holes, because we're grinding this part right here, and you're hand grinding it, and the shape of it is determined by the way you grind it, and I'm afraid that if you drill that hole, it might not land on this thing proper. So it's better to do it on the fly, and that way you can determine where you want to drill that little screw hole there. So what we're doing is we're putting the paper template on there, and then we're drilling the corners. Okay. And if you're using a paper template, this is the exact size it needs to be. If you decide you want to use one of the frames, then you're going to have to cut on the outside of the line to make it work. So that's what I'm doing, and then this is drilled with the larger drill bit, because you don't want this screw that holds this together to grab on that. That needs to be bigger than that because you want it to grip in the top and bottom frame. So as you can see, I've got a stack of these to do. We use the cardboard templates like this to create the parts, and then we use the parts to make duplicates. So I've been using the center here so that I don't have to cut on the outside of the line. So you can see this is what we're doing right here, and winding the core with this trifilar power wires, and I think I got the core just the right size this time, so everything seems to work. It ends up right at the back, as you can see there, so the wraps end up in the right spot. So what we're going to do now is use the parts I created and tested as a template from this point on. So we're going to just line it up and then use it to Now, one thing I did learn from putting this together like this, it's real easy to get this hole slightly off kilter from the template. So what I did is, on the final, I'm going to eliminate these two holes. So all you're going to do is put the one center hole in the back plate instead of these two. That way when you bolt on the center hole, you can just drill these and they'll line up, and if you're off a little bit, it won't matter. And that's the only place it really matters. The small spots for the core, where the core is mounted, the ones on the back you want to drill, and the ones on the front you want to let the core determine where to drill those.